Before we begin, the name is placed on the top right side of the screen. The story begins as someone wonders, what is this? They feel like they are underwater and they cannot breathe. It is a moment as she notices the ceiling and wonders, where is this? She looks at her hand and thinks if these are hers. She realizes that something is wrong, as her hand should not be this delicate. She remembers that she was attacked and she was told that she ruined their family's great cause, as well as question how could she be so thoughtless. Jumping into the water the day before the wedding, she was called Haley. She wonders who is Haley. Someone tells the teacher that Kang Yi-jae is saying strange things again. The teacher also called out to her, telling her she is doing it again. She could see the ghost spirit standing behind the teacher. The teacher told her that there is no one here. They were talking about how she keeps saying that she sees something, wondering if she could be possessed. They stated that as if being an orphan was not bad enough, she is so unfortunate. They mentioned that there is a shaman they know in Cheonnam, questioning if they should send her there. She was told that there was no luck on her face at all. She was also questioned how could she receive a spirit when she was so thin, and told her to just do some menial work. Kang Yi-jae was abandoned by her parents at birth, seeing things she should not see. Taken in by grandma, young San living off old jobs, the fortunate her, that is who she is. She remembers that she was told how dare she is because of her their family is finished. Stating that it was such a good opportunity, she has no idea what is this. She realizes that this is a place that she has never seen before, and she has no idea who hit her. She wonders if she is possessed by someone named Haley. She questions if Haley is in there, as she wants to get out. She wishes for someone to help her. She tries to stand up, but she cannot feel any trace of Haley, the owner of this body, at all. She wonders why is this happening. She keeps on remembering things. She thinks if this is Haley's memory. Questioning why does it have to be underwater? She then realizes that it seems like Haley really did throw herself into the water. She knows that it has been long enough that Haley's soul would become a vengeful spirit or vanished by now. So she is not just possessed, she has entered the body of a dead person. Right then, someone grabs her from the neck, questioning if she's listening. She realizes if this memory is right, then this person is her father, Duke Duncan. He tells her that he has put so much effort into this grand plan. A man smirks, stating that he is seeing something rare indeed. Right then, she's slapped and falls on the ground. He questions if this is how the Duke's family disciplines their children. He tells his Duke to leave them as he has something to discuss with his fiancée. The Duke stands still before the person grabs his shoulder, questioning if he did not hear him, asking him once again to get out. She trembles, realizing that this person is also in her memory, and it is her fiancé, the king of this country. But she wonders, what is this? She has never seen so many vengeful spirits. She looks at him and thinks, what on earth did he do to have so many attached to him? He calls out to her and asks her why she's traveling so much. She wonders how can anyone be calm after seeing those spirits. He tells her to stop trembling, mentioning that it is true she committed a crime worthy of death against him, but he did not come here to kill her right now. She's aware that Haley took her life just before the royal wedding. She caused a huge scandal. She tells him that when he says it like that, it makes her tremble more. She realizes that she misspoke. Right then, he begins to smirk. She realizes that he smiled. He tells her anyway she should stop trembling, as he is here to talk for now, and states that now that he thinks about it, he has not exchanged more than 3 words with her. He questions if this marriage is so unbearable that she wanted to end her life, as well asking was not it the Duncan family that proposed a marriage first. She does not respond to him as he tells her to answer him, mentioning that he does not like asking twice. She wonders that she does not know. Her memories are incomplete, but even if she might have wanted to die, she does not know. She tells him that is not why she did it. It was not because she hated it. He asks her then, was it because she could not forget another man? She's aware that in her original life, there was nothing like that. But then she realizes in Haley's Duncan's life, she did have it, causing her to tremble more. He mentions that he does not care in the slightest if she has some man in her heart. He gets down on one knee and tells her that he would love to cheer for her pure heart, but he cannot afford to go down in history as an even more ill-fated king. She thinks about him being an ill-fated king. He raises her chin as he tells her that his judgment is that she should live longer than she wishes to, but if she really must die, then she should die wearing the crown. She realizes that it seems like she is destined to be unfortunate no matter where she goes. The orphan who sees ghosts. Her grandma was a renewed shaman who took her in. She told her to not go near the water. Her grandma was extremely cautious to avoid any harm from spirits. She was very selective about her visitors and spoke very sparingly. Her grandma told her that she should not go near the sea, valleys, or any water. The fact that she always told her to avoid water, so she knew it carried a heavy meaning. No matter how unfortunate her life might be, precisely because it is, she wanted to live long and stubbornly, so she lived her life trying not to look at such things. But then, when she came to her senses, she was in the body of someone named Haley of all people, someone who had thrown herself into the water. Meeting a man who carries a legion of vengeful spirits, and on top of that, he told her to die wearing the crown. She wonders if he wants her to become the king's consort. He tells her that if she wants to refuse, this is the only chance, as she will only get this option today. She notices that the vengeful spirits are watching her and they are waiting for her answer. She must not make eye contact with them. She questions if she can ask just one thing. He tells her to speak. She asks him what happens if she refuses it. He gets up and tells her that the postponement of the wedding is due to the bride contracting a severe flu. He mentions that if she refuses, it'll be as if she has caught a deadly illness instead of the flu, so she will have to die. He smirks as he says that. She becomes horrified, wondering what kind of unfair choices are these. He finds her reaction quite amusing. He tells her now it is her turn to answer in questions if she will jump into the water again. She tells him no, she's not going to do that. It is a question that does not even need to be thought about. As she wants to live, she tells him she is not giving up on her life. Absolutely not. She tells him that at least until she wears the crown, she promises it won't happen again. He thinks about it for a while and tells her that he will try to believe it. She notices he has a look of complete disbelief. She understands it is hard to believe someone who jumped in just yesterday. He tells her to just overlook his fiancée's mistake. She realizes that he read her thoughts. He commands the knight to call Duke Duncan. As the Duke appears, he questions if he called for him. The Duke wonders how dare he act like the master of his estate, commanding him around. His Majesty tells the Duke that he will give him a warning. He mentions that his daughter will soon become the Queen of Canaan, as he wished, so this means that she is not someone he can handle as he pleases. So if he wants to raise his hand against her again, it would be beneficial for his health to imagine his face at least once. She notices the evil energy coming out of him. She begins to tremble more. She realizes that it's not something a person can endure, thinking that he might really kill the Duke like this. The Duke grits in frustration. He raises his sword slightly as the spirits mutters "kill" in his ears. He ponders that they're doing this again. He tries to control himself and asks the Duke if he has decided. The Duke tells him yes, he did. She finds it absurd. She knows that if it were an ordinary person, they would have gone mad immediately. To hold it on by himself is something really strong. He extends his hand towards her. She realizes that she is still kneeling and takes his hand. He tells her that 4 days should be enough to recover from the flu, right as he calls her his love. He kisses her hand as she tells him yes. He mentions that the wedding will be after 4 days. Since the scandal has already spread far and wide, he does not want to wait any longer. He mentions that this is his last mercy to the Duncan family. He looks at her and smiles and tells her they should do their best from now on and calls her by her name. As he hugs her, he mentions that she should walk to where he is alive and well. Absolutely. He tells her to return to the castle. He also commands that some of the knights should guard around the Duncan estate until the wedding. He says this passing by the Duke, continuing to keep an eye on whether the Duke will try to raise his hand again. He leaves as she stands there looking at him. She ponders that he is the king of Canaan, Roderick Ferris Blake. She wonders how can he still be alive, carrying so much karma and resentment, wondering who is he. 4 days passed in the blink of an eye, and it was the wedding day. A man mentions that the wedding is actually happening. The other one states that honestly he thought something would go wrong again, as the bride is facing with fortune before every wedding. She is listening to their conversation as they mention the Duke Duncan is the scariest person. He pushed his daughter into this situation. She thinks about this story as she realizes it is in her memory. Her memories are very incomplete and full of gaps, but she could tell that the king had attempted 2 arranged marriages before. The only condition he wanted was a minor noble family with no ambition for power. The king did not want to create a powerful in-law. The first bride died in an accident, the second from poison. Only with the third did he finally succeed. She is aware that the third was also a failure. As the real Haley jumped into the water, she's aware that only she's the one who knows that. The door is knocked as she turns around to find the king. He asks her if she had a good dream. He mentions that it was supposed to be her last night at the mansion. He also tells her it does not seem like a place worth missing. She tells him it was a fine night. She notices that there is nothing attached today, knowing that there were so many vengeful spirits, So how come and why are they going now? He steps towards her. She looks at him closely, realizing that his features are really good. She is envious. He looks at her with an annoyed expression as she realizes that maybe she has stared too much. He mentions that she's making him talk several times today as well. She tells him that she's quite nervous and apologizes to him. He tells her that he dislikes lying, telling her that she is not nervous at all. She does him that if His Majesty judges that she is nervous, but then she realizes she made a mistake again trying to talk back. He looks at her reaction and finds it really interesting. She tells him that she is just being careful with her words. She tells him that he is a noble person. She does not know him personally. If she is not careful with her words, then she will definitely make mistakes. She wonders if she was too honest this time. He tells her to just do as he did now. He understands what she means. She stares at him as they are informed that they need to get ready now. He tells her that they shall go now. She tells him all right. As they both are walking together, she ponders that habits are frightening because she has never worn such high heels or cumbersome clothes before, yet she can walk so naturally. She notices the wind and wonders where is it coming from. She sees an energy. She looks up and finds a spirit. She is aware that she has never felt such a grand presence before. It is not a minor spirit or an evil spirit. It is something of a much higher status. He stares into her completely. She realizes that she must not act like she knows. She looks down. She is aware that it would be troublesome if she gets involved. He calls out to her and asks her what is she doing. She apologizes to him. She grabs onto him and thinks that this world is strange and frightening. Vengeful spirits are roaming around. She is aware that she must be very cautious. The time he is questioned, what does he think of her? He responds that he is not sure. He is told that he needs to come towards them as he has that much charm, does not he? His Majesty states that even though she is young as a Duncan, it cannot be that easy. He is talking to the head of the First Knights, Jade. He mentions that she does not seem as innocent as he heard. Jade asks him if it is really the work of that person. He questions about it. Jake tells him that he is talking about the incidents where the two fiancés of His Majesty died. He questions is not reported that Duke Duncan killed them. His Majesty thinks about it as he ponders Duncan. He's aware that if the previous two fiancés had not been murdered, he would not have created such a powerful in-law as Duncan. Since he has been openly trying to become an in-law of the royal family, the probability of him being the culprit is the highest. Yet Duncan's daughter ended up jumping into the water. She was not murdered, but she had no intention of becoming a queen. The king states that fact does not clear her father of suspicion. He is aware that for now, he needs to keep an eye on the Duncan family and find a way to use Hilary Duncan as a favorable asset. Jade asks His Majesty if he is thinking of having more, and should not he be going now. The king asks him if he is worried that he might leave the bride on the first night. He tells him to pour him more. Jade asks him to not be too harsh, as on one hand the queen is still young, and the young lady is caught up in the king and the duke's chess game. The king tells him that is not a suitable remark for his position. He states that Lady is a pawn in Duncan's game. She is still a person of Duncan. He tells Jade to send someone to the Queen's quarter and keep the surveillance tight. Jade tells His Majesty do not worry about that as he will do that. His Majesty then stands up and tells him he's going. It is close so he should not follow him. Jade ponders that today His Majesty looks fine, thinking if the madness has subsided. The king is suffering from nervous breakdown and severe insomnia. As the symptoms worsened, rumors began circulating that the king was mad, and now it has reached the point where it is hard to put him to sleep. Jade ponders that he hopes it stays like this, just like how it was today. As the king is walking down the hallway, the spirits begin to follow him. He feels like his head is going to split. Meanwhile, Haley wonders if this nightwear is not too thin. She thinks about the first night as she is aware that she has never worn such things, even when living as Kang Yi-jae, because she was hiding in a remote village. She wonders that it is not that she absolutely does not want to do it. On the contrary, it seems like an opportunity because virgin spirits and bachelor spirits are all particularly full of grudges. She wonders how important is that in their lives. Thinking what sin being single have that it suffers even after death. She then thinks yes, she is stealing herself. Right then the king steps in and questions what is wrong. She becomes shocked thinking, when did he come? He tells her he is raising his head. She is horrified looking at him, questioning how did it end up like that again. She knows it looked fine during the day. She is aware that this is impossible unless he has been to a battlefield or a graveyard. He tells her that she is the queen, stating that the duke is remarkably diligent about disposing of his children. He steps towards her. She seems pretty scared as he sits on the bed. She wonders how does she handle this. She sits on the bed as well and finds it awkward. She looks at him and asks him if he is all right. She hears all the spirits muttering as she tells herself to not be entranced by the vengeful spirit's voice. She holds on to him, telling him to get a hold of himself. He looks at her as she realizes that his consciousness has already been taken. She tells him he is not like that and shakes him, telling him that he cannot lose now after holding out so long. Suddenly he grits. She realizes that her voice reached him. He then falls down on her lap. She calls out to him, questioning if he is asleep. She thinks that he seems to be getting better. He finds his features really good. The nose and chin have fortune. The bone structure looks good, unlike Haley and her. Moreover, even though it is weakened, the inherent energy is tremendous. Like the Western ghost seen at the wedding, similar feeling. She finds his energy almost divine. She thinks that someone like this should not be tainted by this vengeful spirits. So why is he going through this? She feels bad for him. She tells herself to remember what the old lady said. If she is conscious of spirits, they will also be conscious of her. And if she gets involved with the other world, they will also intervene in her life. She tells herself to not do that. She puts him to sleep. She knows even with a faith as unfortunate as hers, it could get worse. But she mentions to herself that this person protected her from Duke Duncan who hit her. She is just an ordinary person who can see ghosts, and she only learned from the old lady by watching, so getting involved with ghosts will only bring harm. She thinks, but just as a reward, just this once, it should be okay to help, thinking that at least this person can sleep soundly for today. The light begins to emit around her. The evil spirits notices her. They realize that she can see them. She tears her clothes apart. She ponders that she is not sure if this will work here. She bites her finger, causing it to bleed. She ponders that dealing with ghosts is ultimately a battle of will. She calls out the spirits. She tells him that the time in the living world and the afterlife moves differently. The world of the living and the dead can never mix. She calls out to the impure beings and tells them to return to where they belong. The spirit begins to disappear. They live as she wonders if this is done. She feels really weak. She is aware that she cannot bring them to salvation, but just temporarily chase them away, is that they will probably appear again soon. She decides to hide the talisman under the bed. She looks at him and thinks that he will definitely be able to sleep tonight. This is how she will repay the favor. She sleeps by his side. The morning begins as she opens her eyes to find him staring into her. He calls out to her and asks her if she's awake. She becomes shocked. He thinks that her reaction is big. She wonders why is he like this? He looked at her clothes and questions if he did that he does her. He does not remember having such a wild night. She tells him no, that is not the case. He went straight to sleep as soon as he arrived. She also tells him it is not that she is complaining that nothing happened. He tells her to cover herself. As he passes her the blanket, she thanks him. He then questions if it was not him. Does that mean that someone else came into this room? She does have that is not like this and wonders what should she do. She tells him that she thinks it might be her. He asks her what does she mean. She tells him that in her sleep it was hot and uncomfortable. He has a completely disbelieving expression. She notices that. They both just stare at each other for a while. He tells her to rest more. She is aware that it is more embarrassing because he's pretending not to hear. As he goes outside, he thinks she is saying that it was not him. He thought he might have had another episode of madness due to memory loss from yesterday. But considering it, he can see that his head is unusually clear. He knows that since she arrived at this castle, it has happened twice. He thinks about her looks. He finds her innocent and sometimes bold. As a very strange woman, 4 days have passed since the ceremony. After the chaotic first night, she has not seen the king again. She was not expecting a thank you, but she is a bit disappointed. She wonders if she is lonely. She realizes that this is not the time to be having such thoughts. She decided to create a proper talisman, although she does not have the right materials. Like yellow paper, she decides to start with what she brought from the study. Because since that night, the vengeful spirits have been bothering her as well. They ask her why is she so difficult to deal with. They also tell her that the king will kill her head and she's going to die. This is her destiny to die. She sarcastically thanks them for letting her know. She looks at them and questions that she has already died once, so is not dying again too harsh. She uses the talisman to scare them away. She is aware that she needs to set up a barrier. She cannot live like this. She ponders that she should hide a lot of talismans behind the frame or under the furniture. She thinks if it was a mistake to help after all. She knows there is no harm in listening to the old lady's advice. She wonders if there is still a lingering vengeful spirit. She notices a blue spirit as she questions who is it? She questions what is it doing here and if it is not going home. It tells her with tears in eyes that this is his home. She notices that it does not seem like he is an evil spirit. She tells him to not cry, stating that she is not trying to do anything bad. He asks her who is she. She thinks about it as she tells him that her name is Kanye J. He calls out to her as she tells him yes, that is right. She ponders that this is the first time she has said her name out loud since coming here. She questions about his name. He tells her that he does not know as he does not have one because no one has ever called him by name and she is the first person who has looked at him. She asks him if that is true. He also tells her that to be honest, he's really scared. She questions what is scaring him. Is it her? Questioning if it is because of the talisman that she's holding. She notices a crack in the box. She thinks it looks like it has been here for 100 years. She's aware that old things often harbor lingering spirits, so it is the spirit of this box. She thinks it is probably because the box is broken. It cannot hide or use its power. She tells him that she is sorry, but she cannot fix something like this. She states that if a novice like her handles it wrong, he will disappear. He looks at her with pitiful eyes. She tells him that even if he looks at her like this, some things cannot be changed. She states that instead she will keep the impure energy from entering this room as that is what she's doing right now, so it should not be scary anymore. He tells her that is good and states that she should please put one of those things that she's holding inside his house too. She questions if he is talking about the talisman. She realizes that he is very demanding. She decides to do it. As she opens the box, she thinks that he must have been more than 300 years old. She questions if it is done. He begins to get happy and tells her yes. She smiles too. She knows it is the first time since coming here that she has genuinely smiled in joy. 4 days later, she is bedridden. The energy spent on using the talisman has not recovered. She knows this is why she should not do things beyond her means, but it is still not enough to make this place safe. She tries to get up. She is part of a spirit guardian from wood, but it is a mess. She's aware that she needs to carve a totem and place it in the room. Right then, someone whispers into her ears, questioning what is happening. She becomes shocked and turns to look at His Majesty. She asks him why so suddenly is he here. He tells her that the maid told him her condition did not seem good. He tells her that he came to see her condition and bring some medicine. The head maid Deborah is also there. She thanked him. She looks at the vengeful spirits as she realizes that they cannot enter the room. Finding the barrier effective, she's aware it did not stop the most persistent ones. She knows that she needs to make and place the totem quickly. He asked her what is she making with her weak body. He takes a look at it. It has a weird shape, causing both of them to get awkward. The head maid from the shop looks behind, pondering that it seems nothing happened on the first night. But could it be that she is actually doing that? He tells her to seize it. She questions what is he saying. He takes the knife from her and tells her he should seize the carving knife. She questions what he states that significantly, the queen who jumped into the water is holding a blade, and he cannot just leave it, so it is being seized. She becomes sad knowing that she cannot believe this. She is aware that she needs this to make the totem. He does her. Since he is leaving, she should take her medicine. He came because he was suspicious of the commander's report. It was reported that there was a burning smell in the queen's chamber and some ashes were also found. He questioned if she's planning to jump into a fire pit after a mud pit, and it is also say that she carves something every day. He thinks about it as he wonders, what was she carving? After a while she is laying on the bed. She is aware that if only she had a few more days, totem would have been finished. She knows now she has nothing to do, and since it has come to this, she decides to take a book out of the pillow. She wonders if she should read this. It is a diary of Haley Duncan, from the Duke Duncan's mansion. October 16, 497. Tomorrow is her birthday. Then the spirit asks her how does she see him, as many priests have visited this room, but no one has looked at her. She tells him that among the good buyers there are many who can see things, but they might all be charlatans. They pretend to be mystical and deceive people for money. They are like thieves in the dark. He states that he does not even have a nose. She tells him that it's true and wonders if that is a relief. Anyway, she's aware this is Haley Duncan's diary. She brought it hoping it could fill in some of the gaps in her incomplete memory. It seems that she really lived without any thoughts. That is all that she has learned. Her diary is filled with questions about who made her birthday cake. Actually, it does not matter as long as it tastes good. She knows all of the content is like this. She feels like she should apologize to herself instead. She is then informed that the maid, Deborah, is here. She asks the maid to come and the maid tells her she has a report. Deborah mentions that Saga sent a letter along with medicine. She was confirmed if the medicine is safe and come back. She wonders if Deborah is talking about the Duke. The medicine is fine. She tells Deborah that she is not sick anymore, so she won't take it. Deborah responds, all right. She then asks Deborah to just give her the letter. She passes the letter to Haley. Haley then thanks Deborah. In the letter, it is stated that he heard she's unwell, and how is she? He's worried and searched for medicine and has sent it to her. She ponders that the tone is insincere. She is aware that they beat her up in the mansion. It is also written that he wishes to ask her something. She wonders what could he want to ask. Right then she calls out to Deborah. She tells him that she would like to see the king, and if she's aware where he is right now. Deborah mentions that he's in the audience chamber, and she will call a servant to prepare. She tells Deborah. All right. She wonders what should she reply to the Duke. She then thinks that the emotions of Haley, who was supposed to be the queen, are almost gone now. When I saw the pairs, the emotions are originally discarded by the homebody, only those with very strong grudges or grand ambitions to break the world's anomalies and remain as spirits or protective deities. She knows that, but she still wants to ask Haley what would she have wanted to do. In the letter, it's written that even though there are already people serving Her Majesty in the castle this summer, it would be better if they sent people from Saga to make her stay more comfortable. In the audience chamber, people question if it is their fault then, and if they are saying that they must take responsibility, stating that even a lowly official is embezzling the national treasury. His Majesty grits in frustration. Everyone becomes scared as he questions if they have said everything they needed to. He stands up and questions if still there is someone who has more to say. Jade realizes that state is dangerous, and if it gets worse, then it will become a problem and he needs to go and stop it. He knows, since the coronation 3 years ago, the king's increasingly cruel behavior has become apparent. Even though he tries to understand that their throne is such a place, the way he draws his sword and sheds blood after trivial matters is just bizarre. It is as if he's a completely different person from before. He notices Haley with the maid, the two people who witnessed the chaos at the worst possible timing. The maid tells her it might be better for her to leave now. She knows that they decided not to intervene, but she looks at those spirits and wonders, why has it become worse? She realizes that he is holding his sword and rushes to him. Right then, she calls out to His Majesty and grabs him. She does not know what to do. She realizes that she jumped in without knowing. She holds on to him tightly. She calls out to him. As he becomes on, she realizes that his eyes are sharp again. She becomes aware that the rosary seems to be working, and the spirits have retreated a bit. He is shocked before he notices her and calls out her name. He looks at all the people before he lets go of her. He puts his sword aside. He stares at her and asks her why did she do that? She has no idea how to respond. She wonders who does he think is causing all this? She knows that his eyes say no to make him ask twice. She is aware that she originally came to talk about the letter from Duke Duncan, but since he has a bad relationship with the Duke, bringing it up might stir negative emotions. Then those things will start acting up again. She tells him that she came to ask for a cup of tea, and she thinks that she came at a bad time. Girls seem that if she was rude then he should please forgive her. She wishes for all the spirits to get lost. He questions if she's talking about tea. That's him, yes, as last time he sent her some medicine, and she has not had the chance to thank him yet. Everyone is really nervous. She wishes for Deborah to help her. Deborah states that it seems like Her Majesty liked the tea leaves and from Roshan. His Majesty tells her that is good and asks her to bring it. Haley finds Deborah the best. He tells everyone that today's audience is over. Meanwhile, as they are having tea, he stares at her. It seems pretty awkward, and she finds it really uncomfortable. She knows that there is nothing to say, and the tea is not even good. He asks her what is she thinking. She questions if he does not like the tea. He mentions no. He was just wondering why she is doing this, and it seems that the tea does not suit her taste. She realizes that he noticed. Deborah felt sorry as she said whatever came in mind in a panic. She tells him that if His Majesty judges her preferences, then, before he smirks and asks her dad again, she thinks that he is definitely not a naturally violent person. He does not dislike joking around. The problem is that he is haunted by those things. She knows as soon as she sits a little further away, they cling to him again. He is someone who constantly makes one worry. She seems really sad looking at him that way. She knows that seeing these things is really exhausting. She questions if he has not been sleeping well lately. He asks her if he looks like it. She tells him a little before she changes it to quite a lot. She tries to move her arm around trying to push the spirits away. She stands up and sits close to him. She holds his hand, causing Jade to be shocked. He seems confused. Jade ponders that she went too far. As everyone in the palace knows, her relationship with her husband is cold. He hopes that this does not upset His Majesty again. He asks her what is she doing. She tells him that this helps her sleep as she also had insomnia, so she thinks this might help her. He thinks that she does not even bother hiding her lies anymore. She thinks as expected. He is being haunted by spirits for so long that his energy is tangled and blocked. She thinks that for someone as strong as him, it is even more dangerous. He wonders what is she doing. She knows better than anyone where the energy flows in a person's body. Before people came to her grandma to perform exorcism, her job was to help align their energy. She questions if he is sick. He tells her no. She tells him that if he is in too much pain, he can just say so as she examines his body. He does her all right. She knows that people with strong energy usually do not get entangled with spirits. She thinks how much bad did he have to do in life for so many to climb to him, as he does not seem like a bad person though. He suddenly feels pain. She notices the energy and realizes it is almost done. He then wonders what is happening to him as he finds it very warm. He realizes that his body is relaxing as he falls on her lap. He is resting on her lap. She feels glad. She realizes that the flow of energy has finally improved a bit, and for now it should be a bit easier to tolerate the spirits. She's really sorry, as this is the only thing she can do for him right now. Jade is shocked as he wonders if the king is really sleeping. She is aware that her actions must have seemed strange. She tells him it seems like that. She tells him that when one is tired, a massage helps relieve tension, and he must have been very exhausted. Jade tells her that he has not been sleeping well for the past few days. She wonders if he is surprised. He tells her that His Majesty has been suffering from insomnia for a while, but lately it has gotten worse. He tells her that she must have realized it quickly. She ponders that it seems like he's trying to explain the situation. She is aware that it was a situation where showing was not ideal. She tells him that sometimes people can be sensitive what it is oak, and one should not worry as this person could not help it either. Jay tells her that is true, covers His Majesty as Deborah gives him a clear which says, "Does not he see that the queen's shoulders are cold too?" He asked her if she would like him to bring her a blanket. She tells him it is oak as she has finished the tea, so she will leave now. Right then, the king says something. He asks her to stay. This causes the three of them to be shocked. She looks at all of them. She feels really awkward. She knows that it seems like the three of them are having strange thoughts. He places his hand on her hair. She thinks that it is not a suggestive or inappropriate movement. She cannot explain that. It is frustrating. She knows, of course. She did not have no thoughts at all. She wishes for lecherous thoughts to go away. She thinks that His Majesty just instinctively is moving towards pure energy, thinking it must be because of the talisman she has, or the pure energy. After suffering from dark energy for so long, she thinks that he must be struggling to find a comfortable place. She asks them if she could also have a blanket. Deborah tells her understood and grabs the blanket. She's aware she's tired now, even though it was not like using a talisman. It requires focus to adjust someone else's energy. She knows that it is really tiring when getting involved with people like this. She continues to look at him. She finds it very warm. As he wakes up, he finds her sleeping. Jade is still standing there as he asks His Majesty if he has woken up. He states that after drinking tea with Her Majesty and sitting side by side. Before His Majesty mentions that he remembers that too, Jake tells her that he just went straight to sleep. Jade ponders that although the two of them did some mutual rubbing before falling asleep, how could he say that out loud? His Majesty sighs. He then takes a look at her. He mentions that he needs to make sure the Queen sleeps comfortably and states that they should let her sleep in his bedroom. Jade questions what. His Majesty also tells him to not wake her up by moving her unnecessarily. Jade mentions indeed, as His Majesty's room is much closer. The attendants asked each other if they are sure that nothing happened on the first night. Questioning is not their relationship as a couple know that good. Mentioning that they just lay down quietly and slept. Jade asks them what are the both of them doing as they should move as they are instructed. His Majesty thinks that this time his physical condition suddenly improve. He looks at her and thinks, what is she, while later as she wakes up, she wonders if she ended up dying while sleeping and if she is reincarnated again. She looks at herself, realizing she has pink hair, snow-white fingers, and it is the same her, so it seems like she's not dead. She notices that this is clearly the king's room as she finds the familiar things crawling around. She wishes to live as she calls out to someone. Deborah steps in, questioning if she has woken up. She tells Deborah to take her back to her room. As she successfully escaped the haunted house, she's trembling in fear. Deborah asks her if she was always this surprised that it seems that their relationship is not that good. She wonders why on earth did she ended up in this home. The Bora tells her that the king ordered to keep her close to prevent waking her during the move. She thinks about it as she begins to smile. She finds in a strange person, not even knowing that she is helping. She thinks it was good to help, and she completely forgot about the letter this time too.